Okay, guys, so good day to each and everyone. So this is our discussions regarding about our topic, and we discussed this lesson in our scheduled time. So this discussions is intended or for the students in AMT for their absence, and it's because of their laboratory. So let's start our discussion. Okay. So as you can see, guys, here in our screen, we have four different types of um, sports wherein we can saw a lot of strategy, a lot of movement, and of course the nature of sports itself, wherein we can see a lot of differences wherein they have their own um, strategy and techniques on how they play in a certain sports, just like this. So let's define what is sports. So sports, guys, it is an activity involving physical exertion and of course skills in which an individual or team competes against another. So it involves your physical exertion. So you are required to move your muscles, your bones, and of course your joints, because we are going to exert effort, or we are moving our body in order to have a good performance inside the court during competition. And of course it involves also your physical skills, wherein it shows the movement itself of a certain sports. Like for example, in playing basketball, so we have different types, or we have different kinds of skill wherein nakikita natin na they are moving, and of course they are having or performing that skills. Okay, and of course team competes against another. So if there's a sports, guys, there's also a competitions. Okay, so maraming mga sports wherein kinakailangan ng competitions in order to uh win, because your goal in playing sports, guys, is to win, and of course is to entertain. Okay, and of course 'di ba nakikita natin sa mga TVs, and of course sa mga uh, sa internet, most especially sa YouTube, 'di ba? Nanonood tayo minsan ng mga coverage ng sports like in NBA, PBA, UAAP, and even the Olympics, napapanood na rin natin. So that is sports. And of course, sports pertains to any form of competitive physical activity. So it is a competitive physical activity or game that aims to use. So like for example, hindi lang yung mga sports na alam natin, yung mga nakikita natin. As long as you are playing of that kind of game sa mga streets, and of course sa mga backyards, and of course is allotted space for playing, intended for playing, as long as there's a rules and regulations you set, and of course as long as there's a scoring, that is already competitions or competitive physical activity. And of course maintain or improve physical ability and skills while providing enjoyment. So nai-improve yung katawan natin or yung physical ability natin through trainings, practices, and of course by playing or engaging ourselves in sports. Okay, and yeah, and of course, we have the sports fan fact. So sports can through casual or organized participation. So when we say casual, so ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina na it can be done in streets, in wide space or open space na pwede kayong maglaro. As long as you are setting your standards of rules and regulations, scores, something like that. And of course, organized participation. Some just like for example, we have intramurals, we have SEA Games, we have Palarong Pambansa, we have the Olympics. That is the organized participations. Okay, there's a proper way of promoting that kind of organization, and of course there's a fund in there. Okay, and of course improve one's physical health. So nai-improve yung physical health natin as an individual. Hindi lang tayo basta-basta naglalaro, but naglalaro tayo for good in our own health. Okay, and of course next we sports are part of every culture, either that is past and present. Okay, so um, kung matatandaan nyo pa yung physical education 1 natin, di ba na-discuss natin noon na yung mga primitive people is they are having their running, jumping, climbing, swimming, hunting in order for them to survive. So that concept, they get that concept in from that primitive times na magpasa hanggang ngayon, and that concept they use that in order to create a subject, and of course in order to create a curriculum, and that is the physical education, because nakita nila na merong mga benefits or magandang benepisyo ang pagkakaroon ng physical activity ng isang tao. And of course, magpasanggang ngayon, ginagamit natin yung physical activities or physical education in order for us to be aware for our lifestyle, or para mas ma-promote pa natin yung healthy lifestyle. Okay? Just like for example also, we have arnis here in Philippines, and of course, yung arnis na yan is nanggaling pa siya sa primitive times. So ginagamit nila yung arnis for them to defend themselves from any form of danger. Okay? But as time goes by, from generation to generation, naipapasa yung process, naipapasa yung how they play it, or naipapasa yung kung paano siya gawin, mga ganon. And of course, nagkaroon ng development until nagkaroon ng rules and regulations or standard rules and regulations hanggang sa naging part na siya ng Philippine culture and sports. Okay? And of course, but each culture has its own definition of sports. So let's say, going back to arnis, di ba, na-develop ang arnis sa Pilipinas. So it's defined its own definition because arnis came from the Philippines, so nag-originated siya sa Pilipinas, and of course, dapat yung mga rules and regulation na naka-indicate doon sa na-publish na official book of arnis and rules and regulation handbook, so yung mga nandun is purely Filipino language. Okay? So the way they command the player, or the way they command or start the competitions, they must use Filipino language. So that is sports, and of course part of our culture, and of course our traditions as well. Okay, so that is sports. And of course, let's have the benefits of sports. First one is you're going to have a better sleep. Okay, so many of the researchers or the World Health Organization suggest that exercise and sports triggers chemicals in the brain that can make you feel happier and of course relax. So natitrigger yung mga chemicals or what we call hormone in our body, na kung saan nakakatulong ito in order for us to have a good sleep or have a good night's sleep, feel happier, and of course relax. Okay, so yun yung mga hormones like serotonin, dopamines, endorphins, oxytocins, and of course melatonin itself, para nang sa ganun mas masarap yung tulog natin. Okay, so sports provide a chance to unwind and take part in activity that improves your fitness. Okay? So nai-improve yung fitness natin, and of course, if you play sports outside, you can accumulate or you can benefit from fresh air. So kapag maganda yung circulation ng oxygen and carbon dioxide in our body, and of course, nakakatulong yan in order for us to have a good and better sleep. Okay? Next, we have strong heart. Okay, so we have to develop a strong heart, and of course, heart is one of the best or one of the most important part of our body, so we must take care of it. Okay, so your heart is a muscle and needs frequent exercise to help it and keep it healthy. So let us make our heart stronger. Let us make our heart happier, because if we engage ourselves in a certain physical activity na challenge yung heart natin to sa mga daily exercise na ginagawa natin, na challenge yung heart natin, and of course nagkakaroon tayo ng stronger and better heart in our body. And of course, a stronger heart can improve overall health of the body as well. So we must promote strong heart, and of course strong lungs as well. And of course, we will be having a new connections. Okay? So yung new connections, hindi lang tayo nakakapag-create ng new connections sa ating tawag nito, sa Facebook, sa Instagram, sa Twitter, sa TikTok. But personally, we are having our new connections if we engage ourselves in a certain sports. So makakakilala tayo or makaka-encounter tayo ng different peoples with their different personalities, different principles in life, beliefs, traditions, culture, and religion. Okay? So nakakapag-create tayo ng new connections about that. And of course, next we have to improve our lung functions. Okay? So we have to improve our lung functions because just like the heart, napaka-importante din yan sa ating in our daily living, our lungs. Because diyan pumapasok yung oxygen and of course, nafi-filter yan through lungs and of course, naipapasa niya kay heart. So we must improve our lung functions by engaging ourselves in physical activity. And of course, if we increases the lung capacity during sport, that is why na-improve yung lung functions and of course your lung efficiency. So mas nakakapag-work siya ng maayos and of course wala siyang iniindang karamdaman para mas maganda yung performance ng isang tao or ng isang individual sa loob ng court. Okay? And of course, increase confidence. So nakakapag-increase ng confidence. So na-increase yung confidence because you have the guts to show your skills, your ability, and of course, if there's an acceptance sa mga audience na nanonood sa'yo and of course sa mga teammates mo, doon nabubush yung confidence natin if we engage ourselves in certain sports. And of course, di ba, if we have our good feedbacks from our coach or from the audiences or from the teammates, di ba, mas nabibuild yung kumpiyansa natin sa sarili natin. Okay, next we have reduces stress. So if we engage ourselves in sports, it reduces the stress because it serves as a outlet to unplug or to lumabas yung mga anxiety and of course, yung mga stress natin sa buhay. And of course, improve mental health because your mind matters. Yan. So, if we engage ourselves in a physical activity, mas na-improve yung brain functions natin, nakakapag-isip tayo ng happy thoughts or positive insights, mga ganyan. So next, and of course, sport build leaders because in sports, guys, it is a better way to create leaders because imagine, guys, if we don't have leaders in a certain group or in a certain team. So maaring hindi siya organized or scattered yung mga ideas and of course instructions na gagawin natin. So if we are able to stand up and of course act as a leader in your group, why not? Because we have a leader spirit in our self, so we must develop this in order for us to develop this kind of character. Okay, so that is sport build leaders, and of course develop stronger relationships. So yung nakakapag-build siya ng stronger relationships. So mahalaga, guys, na alamin mo yung weakness and strength ng mga kagrupo mo before you proceed to a certain competition. So by that, nabubuo yung support system because nadidetermine mo kung ano yung mga weaknesses nila, yung mga strength nila, yung mga anxieties nila, kung sino sila as a person. So doon na-develop yung stronger relationships. And of course, if we are having our training and practices daily, di ba, hindi malayang nagiging close kayo ng mga ka-teammates mo. So that is why develop stronger relationship. And of course, sport aids the healthy development of children. Okay, so nature ng mga bata ang maglaro outside or maglaro kung saan-saan, nature na nilang mag-explore somewhere. Okay, wag nating sawayin kasi it's part of their development as a child, and of course it requires them to do a lot of physical activities daily in order for them to have a good development of their internal organs, their bones and muscles, especially, and of course our brain, kasi doon na-develop by means of exploring, by means of engaging ourselves in physical activities. Doon na-develop yung ating pagkatao, physical aspects, and of course physical attributes in our body. Okay, and that is the 10 benefits of sports in our body. So yeah, And of course, let's have the individual and dual sports. So when we say individual, are those sports where only one athlete competes for his or her own side. So it meaning to say that you are that only single person are allowed in the court at a time to compete and to, of course, to defend his or her court, and of course to stand on his or her own. Okay, so uh, allowed lang ang isang tao sa loob ng court. Like for example, we have the swimming, we have the boxing, taekwondo, what we call single badminton, single table tennis, mga ganun. So arnis. So kailangan ng individual, strictly individual sports yung mga yon. Dart, archery, di ba? Karate, judo, muay thai. So those are some individual sports na kung saan na nagpapakita or nagmamanifest ng iisang tao lang sa loob ng court to compete. Okay? And of course, we have the dual sports. There are only a handful of sports that are strictly dual sports and don't have an option for individual competitions. Okay? So, madalas nakikita natin sila somewhere, but in Olympics, guys, we have two strictly dual sports na allowed lang na dalawang person sa loob ng court to compete. Okay? So, we have the beach volleyball. So, it involves 2 players per team. Okay, so magkaiba yung volleyball team tsaka sa beach volleyball kasi nga dadalawa lang yung allowed persons sa loob ng court, and of course same skills and of course same strategy on how they create a score. Okay, and of course we have the professional wrestling, so it consists of it involves also 2 persons per team where our competitors tag in out for the match. Okay, so in professional wrestling, hindi yung parang napapanood natin sa TV na yung ganon. So, dalawang person ang pwedeng maglaro per team. Okay, and of course, we have 2-on-2 basketball. So, just like in basketball team, hindi sila parehas ng rules and regulations, but same skills, same commands, or the hand signals in referee. Okay, so that is dual sports. So we have 3 examples, and of course may nagsabi sa akin na pwedeng dalawa sa taekwondo, and of course sa diving competitions pwedeng dalawa. Okay, so that is the dual sports composed of 2 persons or 2 players in a certain court or in a certain competition. Okay, so let's proceed to this. We have sports here that can be individual or dual, or meaning to say that they are universal. So we have badminton, table tennis or the lawn tennis, and of course we have the billiards. So those are the three sports or example of sports that can be individual or dual. Okay, so next we have the pros and cons of individual sports. So when we say pros and cons, these are the advantages or disadvantages of a certain sports. So let's start with, so individual sports can be fun because you're solely responsible for the outcome. So it can be fun. So it promotes entertainment, it promotes fun, full of excitement, enjoyment, etc., etc. As long as you are enjoying in that game, it promotes fun, and of course, hindi ka mabubore. Okay? And of course, you're solely responsible for the outcome. Either that is a bad outcome or a good outcome, you're still responsible for that kasi mag-isa mo lang na makikipag-compete sa loob ng court. And of course, the performance rests on your shoulders and you receive all of the credit for your victory. So if you do good performance inside the court, so hindi malayong ikaw ang mananalo. And of course, if you won the game, so you'll receive all of the credit for your victory. Just like Heidelin Diaz, di ba? Si Heidelin Diaz, mag-isa niya lang sa court or sa sa stadium na pinangyarihan ng event ng weightlifting, and of course, siya yung nanalo. So all of the credits is sa kanya for her victory. So lahat ng milyones na sa kanya ngayon. Char. Okay? And of course, individual sports require a competitive spirit and of course a self-starting nature. So we have to set in our minds, if we are individual players, that we are only one in the court. So walang ibang aasahan natin kundi ang sarili natin at ang sarili natin at ang sarili natin lamang. And of course, competitive spirit. So let yourself build this kind of characters, because sometimes, guys, if we are not confident of what we are doing inside the courts. So yun yung gagamitin ng kalaban in order to defeat us. So we must build this kind of spirit para nang sa ganun hindi matitrigger yung kalaban mo to do such thing na pwede mong ikatalo. Okay? So you're on your own as an individual athlete, so you have to compete without anyone beside you to take up the slack. Okay? And of course, on the opposite side of the argument, if you lose, all of the blame falls on you as an individual athlete, just like Manny Pacquiao, di ba? So he did his best, but his best wasn't good enough. That's why hindi siya nanalo. So, lahat ng sisi na sa kanya at hindi mo maiaalis ang isang player kapag natalo siya na may guilt sa kanya. Okay? Pero wag mong ipamukha na he or she is a failure. So, please avoid that kind of thing. Okay? And of course, you also don't have a teammate to lean on if you're struggling or having a bad performance. So, wala kang sasandalan kundi ang sarili mo lamang. And of course, it's easier to get discouraged. It's easier to get discouraged when you're the only athlete. Because, yun nga, wala kang kasama, maaring maapektuhan yung performance mo as a player. Okay? So, next, we have the pros and cons of dual sports. We have competing in dual sports can be fun also, just like individual sports, because of the camaraderie and teamwork involved in working together as a team. So, that is the product of support system of each and everyone sa camaraderie and teamwork. In order for you and for your team to work together and of course mag-conspire kayo sa isa't isa and of course makakapag-create kayo ng a very good performance in a certain task. Okay? And of course, dual teammates can encourage each other and play of each other to win. So you can encourage each other to give some insights or give some advice if you guys is nasa loob na ng court. So, meron ka ng sasandalan. Unlike sa individual sports na wala kang kasama. Okay? So, one teammate can also bear the load when the other one is struggling or having difficulty. Or what we call support system na tinatawag. Kanina ko pa yung sinasabi. Okay? And of course, we have the dual sports require cooperation. So, if you get along well with your fellow athletes, you'll do well in a dual sport. So, if you as a player or you are belong to a certain team, you are required to cooperate or give some ideas, insights, strategies, techniques for the betterment of your team or your group. So give your best, give your sacrifices as well kasi lahat naman kayo nagsasacrifice. Okay? So you have to cooperate and that is mandatory. Okay? So you have less control over the outcome when you're relying on another teammate. So you have less control kasi nga may mga kasama ka na. So either you are doing your best but your teammates or your partners is performing poor performance or poor actions inside the court. So yun, maaring matalo kayo. So you have the less control. And of course, you can have your best individual performance and still lose the match or game in a dual sports, which is an important factor to remember. So if you give your best, but your partner doesn't give his or her best enough, so pwede kayong matalo. So yun. Wala kang control. And of course, you can also find the burden of a game or match falling on you if your teammate is performing poorly or has a bad attitude. So, yun nga, wala tayong control sa mga pwedeng mangyari kasi nga hindi naman natin hawak yung mindset ng kasama mo, yung mindset ng partner mo. So, if you are joining dual or team sports, dapat iisa yung goal ninyo as a team and of course, iisa yung mindset ninyo. And that mindset will lead you to success or victory. Okay, so that ends our discussion for this day and have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.